We want to allow a few other individuals to join us. So if you can just bear with us for a couple of moments, we'll start shortly. Thanks.
Buenas noches a todos, les damos la bienvenida. Vamos a darle un par de minutos para que se nos unan más personas. Si pueden esperar pacientemente por un par de minutos.
This would have been good to put it on the computer.
Yeah, I could have. But how do you enter your phone number on that? Do you know that phone number?
Numbers.
Once again, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Washington Area Program of Projects virtual community open house. We'll be getting started in a couple of moments. Thanks. And Francisco, I believe you were on mute, so they couldn't hear you.
Thank you. Buenas noches a todos, bienvenidos nuevamente a esta sesión de jornada de puertas abiertas virtual para el programa para los programas de los proyectos del área de la Washington. Comenzaremos en unos minutos.
Five 2728.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Washington Area Program of Projects Community Open House. We're glad you're with us this evening. We'll go ahead and get started. We have a few introductory slides as others join. And we want to be mindful of everyone's time this evening and just want to say thank you for joining us this evening. Beth, go ahead to the next slide, please. So as always at our meetings, language interpretation is available. So for interpretation, please connect using a tablet or a computer. And then on the bottom of the screen, you will see a globe icon, and it's on the bottom right of your screen. Please select the language of your preference. And if you do want English as your preferred language, you do need to select English for interpretation purposes. So we'll give everyone a moment to select the language of their choice.
Hello?
Yes, good evening.
This is John Sapien calling.
Okay, John, welcome. We're just started with the meeting right now.
All right, thanks.
You're right on time, John.
Buenas noches.
Go ahead.
Buenas noches a todos. Bienvenidos a esta jornada de puertas abiertas virtual de el programa de proyectos del área de la Washington. Queremos antes que nada indicarles que esta reunión es bilingüe y hay interpretación al español. Si hace el favor de en su computadora o en su tableta o en su celular, puede seleccionar el canal en español. Es importante que lo haga eso y también es importante que nos indique si está escuchando en el canal en español. El programa esta noche incluye más de una una
Hey, Michelle, is it a
área
problem we can't hear him
de,
on our line?
de discusión.
You have to turn the language off, Anthony.
Okay.
He hasn't activated yet.
You cannot hear
Okay,
me
for those
now.
of us who are waiting, we're waiting for the translation to happen. So we're not, I think that Francisco from Language Access is just finished. So
Yes.
I think, Anthony, we could probably move forward
Yep.
if you want.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move to the next slide. So I'm going to turn over our meeting to our wonderful facilitator, Catherine Archuleta with Dimension Strategies, and then she will discuss this evening's agenda with you.
So I'm really excited to be with you here tonight. This is going to be such an informative meeting, and we finally have the sun coming out. So it's going to be a good evening after some gray clouds, and hopefully the next of the week will be one that we can all enjoy in Colorado sunshine. We have a really exciting agenda for everyone tonight. There will be 3 sections, each of them about 25 minutes long. We may run a few minutes over at the end, but we want to be sure that we give enough time for every one of our topics. We're going to try something new this time. We're going to do breakout rooms. And so as we move through the agenda, I just wanted to let you know that you don't need to worry about it, because unlike being together in physical presence, we're able to move you along through the magic of Zoom. But we're all going to be together at the top of the agenda, where we'd like to just give some updates to you about the website, some work that is continuing with Heron Pond, Carpio-Sanguinette Park. And also we want to talk to you about summer plans, the Parks and Recreation Center reopening, and John Martinez from Parks and Rec is going to be with us. Then through the magic of Zoom, we're going to invite half of our attendees to join in a breakout room, and we're going to have another half of us stay in the main room, and we're going to be talking about 51st Avenue design update, and then the Washington Street connectivity. When we move into session 2, you don't need to do anything. We're only going to move the presenters, and so the presentation that you didn't hear will be presented to you in your room. So don't worry about having to move or to press any buttons. We're going to do all of that for you. Michelle Faust, who works with OCBE, is going to perform all that magic for us. So we'll be excited to update you about the 51st Avenue design and also the Washington Street connectivity. We also know that you've asked some really important questions about GES Sidewalks, and we have a lot of information we want to share with you tonight, and Karen Good is going to help us. We'll bring everybody back into the main room for that 3rd session and leave plenty of time for you not only to get updated, but also to hear, to have an opportunity to ask questions and learn more about our sidewalk projects. And at the end, of course, we'll talk about the next steps and how we continue to be engaged with you. We would really like for you, if you can and want more information about the upcoming events, or want more information, or even to see a recording of this meeting, we're going to show you how to do that. But we'd also actually like for you to put your name in the chat with your email address, or we're also going to tell you a little bit another way to do that as well. So we have a great evening this evening. We're really an agenda that we're really happy to share with you. And so let's just get started.
Terrific. So the first project that we wanted to update the community is our website. So the Washington Area Program of Projects website is officially launched and live. Moving forward, we will be sharing the website with you at all of our community meetings, but did want to just briefly share with you a few of the highlights of the web page. And so the website is bit.ly/Washington projects. And we will also list that in the chat. But that is the website address. So you can click, you can visit the website at your leisure. But what the website now contains is a listing of all of the projects that are a part of the Washington Area Program of Projects. And so the homepage gives a brief description of what the Washington Area Program of Projects are. It talks about our community advisory group. We have created a CAG that meets on a monthly basis that receives updates on projects on a monthly basis. And then there is the master schedule, which contains all of the projects and the timing for those projects when they will be in planning or in design or in construction. It also includes an accordion that lists each project. So each project has its own page. And if you can go back up to the oh no, stay there. So what each page, it's uniform. So what each page contains, so you know what happens when you look at, when you visit a website, if you go from one page to another, you're visiting another land basically, because they put their information in different formats. And if you're looking for something, it may not be on the same page in the same spot. But what we've done is we have created the the individual project pages. They each include purpose. So at the very top of each page, there is a purpose. It gives which is the project description. If there's any maps or materials that are applicable, it would include those and then links to those. It includes the project schedule for that particular project. And most importantly, it includes a project contact. So that is going to be, that information is going to be contained on each of the web pages within the website. You can review any of that information on the website. If you go back to the main screen for me really fast. So the other thing that we've added to the web page is on the right-hand side, it'll say other area-wide projects. And so it includes, for instance, the Globeville Neighborhood Plan. It includes the National Western Center. It includes, you know, the 52nd Avenue Feasibility Study, 41st and Fox. So it includes information in the area that also impacts the GES community. So all of that information is now contained on this website as well. Finally, it includes a box that says get email updates. So if you want to stay updated on a regular basis, you can fill out your email address and your name is optional. And if you submit that, I will be collecting your name and information. And anytime we have updates on the website, or much like the meeting we're having this evening, to inform and let you know that this meeting is being hosted, we would include you on an email distribution list. Please know that your email is not shared with anyone, and will not all of a sudden be receiving 150 different emails from different sources, because I do not share that information, your email, with anyone. And Tracy was asking if we could share the link again.
That website.
Yep, for the website. But just know that on a monthly basis, I will be reaching out to each of the project managers for each of these projects and asking them to review their web page and provide any updated information, so that if you visit the website, the information is current and to date. Also, any additional outreach efforts for any particular project, we will add that information on these pages as well. But we want to encourage community members to learn about all of the various projects that are contained within the Washington Area Program of Projects. And you see the master schedule down below. It is a number of projects that are going to be impacting the community over the next several years. And so we want to just make sure that we are providing timely information for the community members, that it's accurate and up to date, and that you never visit here's a commitment I make to you is you'll never visit a web page that's contained within the Washington area website and it'll say under construction, please visit again. That is not useful and helpful at all. So if need be, we might take a project off of the website to update the information, but we will never put a message up there that please visit at another time under construction. So I personally make that commitment to you, the community. I've also made it to our community advisory group. It's just so important that this information be up to date, timely, and accurate. So with that, does anyone have any questions related to our new website?
So do you want to sign up?
So I'm going to ask each of our participants if you'd put yourself on mute, because I actually can hear your conversations, and I'm not sure you want us to hear everything you're saying. But if you do want to check out the website, just remember it's right here in the chat. It's a bit.ly, bit.ly//Washington projects. And you can go there to access all of the information. And what Anthony, I'd like to add to what Anthony has described is that we're trying to get as much information to you in as many ways as possible. So we want to continue to have these community updates. Obviously, you can participate in the community action group, and we also have the website now that will give you information. So whenever you have questions, and you will also always provide Anthony's email address, we can give you information whenever you need it, whenever you want it, or whether you have questions about any information you're seeing either in meetings or on the website. So this is a new addition to our communications with you, and we hope that you'll be able to access it after the meeting or maybe even during the meeting and see get the latest updates. And we'll continue, as Anthony said, to update it on a regular basis.
Yeah, and Tracy, I just saw your comment in the chat. I'm not sure what the CAPTCHA is, but I can look. I just know that Sam Benton is our first person to sign up on the website, and it came through. So thank you, Sam. Yay, it worked. So that's always helpful. But Tracy will maybe your email address and follow up with you to make sure you're signed up.
Anthony?
Yes.
This is John Sapien.
Yes, John.
I'm pleased to hear what you're saying and what's going to happen here. But I have some reservations and some concerns, and I will hold those in check until the end of the meeting. Okay. Because I don't want to impose any personal feelings on this process. So, but I do have some concerns, and I'll share those with you.
John, I'll be sure to make sure that I call on you at the end of the meeting. How's that?
Thank you very much. Yes, I appreciate
it. John,
that.
we're glad you're here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
So we'll move on to the next slide.
All right. Hi, good evening. I'm Sensory Eads. I'm the resiliency planner for Denver Parks, and I have been the project manager on the Heron Pond Heller Carpio-Sanguinette Park project. Just a quick background and update for some of you who may not be familiar with the process, but we did complete a master planning process for the entire 80-acre site, and that was completed in 2017. Then we moved into the design process, which has surprisingly taken just a little over 2 years, and we are wrapping that process up now. And if you want to go to the next slide. So you may have already seen some construction kicking off in the park, and that is in coordination with the 51st Bridge construction and the levee improvements. We will kick off the next phase in the late summer, early fall this year. So please be on the lookout. We will have a groundbreaking event, and we will make sure to coordinate that with this group, get that widely outreach to the community and the neighbors. But that will be the more significant phase to really begin the reconstruction of the project. If you go to the next slide, please. So this information is available online, but this really breaks down the 3 distinct phases that will construct the park and the different components that are included in each phase, the tentative timeline for construction, and the cost estimate and budget for each of those phases. We do have a Heron Pond website. It's the same website that we've used since the beginning of the master plan. So denvergov.org/Heron Pond, where you can find information on the master plan and additional information on the construction schedule, and then my contact information. So that's just the quick update that we have, and we'll continue to keep you informed and engaged in the next steps of this process.
Are there any questions about Heron Pond update? Anthony, I might not be able to see all the hands, so. No.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any hands, Catherine.
Okay. All right. John, I mean.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. John Martinez. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Denver Parks and Recreation. So I'm here tonight to give an update on our phased reopening plan, specific to District 9. So next slide, please. So this is our equity map that we use to overlay what we're doing in all of our communities. Whether we're opening rec centers or providing, summer camps or other services. So this is a great reflection of what we're doing across the city. As you can see in District 9, we have a lot going on in the first phase, which started the 1st of May. That will continue through Q4 of 2021. So next slide, please. So what are we doing in District 9? And so we're doing a lot. And one of the things I want to mention is that we never stopped providing services to our communities throughout the COVID pandemic. We continue to provide meal services to our youth and families and GES, also providing shelter for our folks experiencing homelessness. So although our facilities were closed, we were still providing services. So starting in the summer of 2021, My Denver programs will happen at Johnson Rec Center. Summer in the Parks, which is our licensed summer camps, will happen at Swansea Rec Center and St. Charles. One of the things that I want to outline is that anyone who resides in the 80216 zip code automatically qualifies for a 90% scholarship. So for anything that we offer, whether it's a membership or a program, as long as you can produce documentation that you reside in the 80216 zip code, you qualify for 90% off. The tasty food meal sites, Globeville Outdoor Pool, and so that's in Argo Park, St. Charles Recreation Center, along with Swansea and Johnson. So all of the facilities within the District 9 will be offering summer meals. And so that will be lunch and dinner, along with some snacks. And so one of the things I want to highlight is that during 2020, we actually served over 180,000 meals to families across the city. And so we're continuing to do that. 5090 Rec Center was a learning lab that we did once DPS decided to close their doors. That will actually shut down the end of May. We are committed, however, if we need to extend that in the fall, but the DPS plans, they will resume in person, so we may not need that site. Outdoor pools within District 9, we've opening 8 of our 16 outdoor pools, and 2 of those are actually in District 9 with Argo Globeville Park and Mestizo Curtis. Our citywide sports, which is a program for our adults, Sonny Lawson will be running programs out of their adult softball 6 days a week, so Monday through Saturday. Also, hopefully everyone knows that we'll be hosting the MLB All-Star Game. And so we'll be using Sunny Lawson Park as a site for an event there. So that's great news. And then our fitness center. So that's based on reservations. Carla Madison Rec Center was actually opened the 1st of May. And we've seen a huge increase in our participation. For Carla Madison, we're servicing about 120 people per day on our reservation system. So that's great news to get our centers back open. The goal is actually to have all of our facilities open, which we have 30 throughout the system by Q4 of 2021. So next slide, please. So Summer in the Parks, that's the biggest summer program that we're offering in District 9. Again, like I said, it's a 5-day program, which we have 5 sites, Oslan, Harvey, Montbello, and St. Charles, and Swansea. The reason why Swansea is not listed on this because it qualifies for that 90% automatic discount. And so we still have slots available at both St. Charles and Swansea. So please get the word out to the residents of District 9. We do have a discount available if you reside out of 80216 zip code, up to 90% based on income restrictions. So if you have any questions, you can email us at recreation.administration@denvergov.org, or you can visit us at denvergov.org/recreation for all the offerings that we are providing. And again, it's a phased reopening. One of the challenges is staffing. And so we are in the process of hiring and recruiting 23 full-time employees and around 1,600 seasonal employees. And so again, all of our information is listed on our website. If you do have questions, you can email that, or you can actually email me directly and I'll respond appropriately. My email is john.martinez@denvergov.org. And so thank you for participating in this town hall. Any questions? And
I have a question. How can we volunteer? You're talking about the meals that you guys hand out. Is there a way that we can volunteer time or donate money to that cause?
Absolutely. So you can shoot me an email, and we do have a volunteer background process, but we're always looking for donations. And so if it's, you want to donate, or if you want to come out and help serve meals, we can get you through our volunteer background check and get you at a site.
John, will
give
you
me your
put
email again real quick.
Yeah, how about if we
Sorry.
put it in the chat, John?
Yeah, I will put it in the chat.
Sure. I'm actually on the phone. I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I'm not in the chat. I wasn't able to get on the Zoom, so I had to dial in just from my phone. So
Okay.
kind of going blind here. So if you could give me the email, that would be great.
Sure. It's John, JOHN .Martinez, MARTINEZ @denvergov.org.
denvergov.org. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're always looking for volunteers, whether it's a meal program, help coaching our youth sports, fitness classes, front counter help. So we're always looking for volunteers.
And John, if you'll put your, if you still put your email address in the chat, and then Julia, will you copy the email and visit sites, the website in the chat as well? So as we turn off this slide and go on to the other slides, that's still up in the chat. Thanks.
So that's done, Catherine.
Thank you. John, thank you so much for being here tonight and for all the work that Parks and Recs has done over the COVID year. And also, we're so excited that we're reopening.
Yes, absolutely. And my staff are excited as well. Thank you.
All right, so now we are going to move into the breakouts. Remember that you don't need to do anything. Michelle Fass is going to move us around. There'll be 2 rooms. In the first session, we'll do, in one of the rooms, we'll do 51st. And in the second room, we'll do the Washington Street connectivity. At the end of that, of about a 25-minute presentation and Q&A, we'll switch. Again, you don't need to do anything. We'll just switch our presenters. So let's go ahead and get started with our breakout room discussions.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Duzak. I'm with RS&H. We're an engineering firm in Denver, working with the city of Denver on the 51st Avenue project. So we're very happy to be here tonight to discuss the project with everyone. So we'll kick it off. Eric Brackey is one of the project managers with the city. He will give a brief intro and then we'll dive into details of our design for the project.
Hi, I'm Eric Brackey. I'm the acting city deputy engineer, and I'm also the manager in charge of the Washington Street program of projects. And so tonight in this breakout room, we're going to talk a little bit about 51st Avenue and how that's proceeding with in design and the importance of this connection. This is a project that moved to the top of the list, and it moved to the top of the list for our attention based on the fact that Heron Pond is coming in and the bridge is currently under construction over from Newco. And the intersection of Washington Street and 51st Avenue, or the 2 intersections, are not capable of handling additional traffic. And the pavement sections along 51st Avenue are not able to handle any types of additional traffic, nor are they as accessible as a pedestrian or a bicyclist, or they are incredibly deficient. And so this project definitely moved to the top of the list. It does involve reconstructing 51st Avenue from Emerson over to Logan. That's what we're working on right now. And then the Parks Department and the Heron Pond are doing the section of 51st adjacent to the park. So it is a high priority. It's an important connectivity issue, and we're moving forward with it. You want to go to the next slide, please?
Yes.
And Dave will talk a little bit about the complexities of trying to build these roadways. Here are some photos east and west of Washington Street along 51st and along Clarkston, because the project that we're working on also includes adding sidewalks alongside Clarkston, which will also more than likely include curb and gutter, drainage improvements, utility improvements. And as you can see, it'll be difficult. It is not an easy project, let me just say that, to improve these roadways at all. So go ahead to the next slide. And then you want to take it from here, David?
Sure thing, Eric, thank you. So first we'll review the overall key improvements for this roadway improvement project. Our project limits for 51st Avenue extend between Logan Street and Emerson Street. So our improvements include constructing sidewalks on both sides of 51st Avenue with a buffer area between the sidewalk and roadway. We'll also be installing bike facilities on both sides of 51st Avenue. The project also entails realigning the Washington Street intersection at 51st Avenue. As you probably know, there's an offset intersection currently where the eastbound and westbound directions don't meet at one point. Our project will shift the eastbound approach to the south to line up the westbound and eastbound approach at one single point. And also we'll be improving the railroad crossing that is east of Logan Street and installing sidewalks at this location to fill in the gaps in the sidewalk network. So I'll review cross sections of the existing condition and our proposed improvements for both east and west of Washington Street. So west of Washington Street, we have 2 existing travel lanes, and we also have existing sidewalk and curb and gutter and tree lawn which was built recently as the new development in that area. Under our proposed improvements, we'll be maintaining that newer sidewalk and curb and gutter. We'll be placing and installing bike lanes on 51st Avenue with a buffer between the bike lane and the travel lane. And then we'll be installing a new sidewalk and curb on the south side of the roadway. East of Washington Street, the existing roadway is pretty much open pavement. There's nowhere to walk or bike in this area. So our project will install a shared use pathway, which is just basically a wide sidewalk where both people can bike and walk at the same time. We'll also be installing a new curb and gutter, and we'll be maintaining the 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction. And I will note that this configuration matches the 51st Avenue work that the Heron Pond project is constructing that was presented earlier in this open house. And also, it does match the same section as the new bridge that's currently under construction over the Platte River. So now I'm going to be looking at an aerial display and walking you through different segments of this project so you can really get an idea of what we're proposing. So I'm going to begin on the western project limits, and I'll walk through what these colors mean on the aerial map. The gold color is the proposed sidewalk. The blue or gray color is the open space or the amenity zone between the curb and the sidewalk. And the orange color is the proposed curb and gutter. So beginning at Logan Street, there is a sidewalk on the west side of Logan that ends at that intersection. This project will extend the sidewalk east of that location from Logan to Washington Street. So one of the first elements is the railroad crossing immediately east of Logan Street. We're working with the railroad company currently to design a crossing improvements at this location. Those improvements will include a new sidewalk across the railroad tracks. And also the railroad company would like to improve their crossing of the roadway as well and install concrete panels on the road. We'll also be updating the signing and the pavement markings on the approaches to the railroad to warn people of the crossing. As we continue east, the sidewalk continues on the south side of the road. And as I mentioned a minute ago, the north side, we are maintaining the new sidewalk that was recently constructed in that area. I will say that we will work with property owners along the roadway to make sure we maintain their access point or driveway, and we'll meet with them to talk with them about how they use their entrance today and to design that entrance to meet their needs. So if those contacts and phone calls have not happened yet, but they will be happening in the future. I also want to make sure that everyone understands we're at the preliminary design stage. So we have an opportunity to take your input and feedback tonight and hopefully or potentially incorporate that feedback into our design. Before I move forward to the intersection at Washington Street, does anyone have any questions or comments that they would like to discuss at this point?
Thank you, Dave. I don't have any question at this moment. I'm very new here in Globeville, but definitely I would like to review this and perhaps follow up later. But thank you for all this information.
Thank you, Tracy. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Anthony. We'd be glad to spend some time with you.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you. So we'll move to the east, and this is the main Washington Street intersection. I mentioned that we are realigning the roadway here. So the eastbound approach will shift to the south and will meet at one single point at the current westbound approach location. There is an existing traffic signal on the eastbound approach, which we will remove and shift down or to the south to the westbound approach intersection. As I mentioned, we are in the preliminary design stage. So we will be looking at the corner radii or the curb ramp locations to make sure we tighten these radius up as much as we can to increase the safety for people walking across the intersection. And so this is just a preliminary exhibit at this point, and design is ongoing. We will discuss in a moment as well the green shaded area. These are remaining, this is remaining space that will be available for the city to use and for the community to use once the construction is complete. And I will have a slide in a moment to discuss that area in more detail. And I'll also note that once you cross Washington Street, the bike lane that's on the roadway will end and the shared use path for both bikes and pedestrians will begin. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this area here and the intersection design?
Again, if you have any questions or think of them tonight or tomorrow morning, Anthony has put his email address in the chat, so you can always get in touch with him and he'll connect you with the right folks to talk to about your questions. So if we have just a few minutes left, if we can just go forward.
Yes, I'll quickly move forward. As we cross Washington Street, we have the shared use pathway continues up to the Emerson Street intersection. And this is where we meet up with the proposed improvements by the Heron Pond project. And that construction will occur prior to this project, but we will tie in and match exactly at the same location once we do our construction in the future. So does anyone have any overall questions about the 51st Avenue project or the remnant parcels or open space that will be remaining at that intersection once we're finished with construction?
We have plenty of time for your questions if any of our community members have any questions.
This might be a little silly, but this looks to be an amazing improvement. The only thing I wanted to ask, and might sound silly, is if there's going to be some sign of like speed control, because I live in 51 and I do notice that there's a lot of cars that speed there. There's also school and lots of kids playing around. So I think as a feedback, I think that would be something to have in consideration.
Thank you, Tracy.
It's a great point, thank you. And I think we can look into that. The roadway limit for the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. We are narrowing the lanes. Right now there's kind of open pavement with no lane markings. So there is some past evidence of that by narrowing the lane widths, you will gain some element of speed control from that alone. But that's a great point and we will keep that in mind.
Can you also talk and perhaps explain what an amenity zone is so that everybody, because you've talked about several of the amenity zones, and maybe explain to the community members what an amenity zone is?
I sure can. Yeah, the amenity zone is an area typically between the sidewalk and the roadway where it's an open space to be used for community amenities. It can be trees or plantings. It could be as simple as grass. It could be concrete if needed. So there are different types of amenity zones. We are still in design, so we don't have a firm answer, I don't believe, for all what is going in these open spaces at this point, but it does provide a separation between the roadway and the walking facilities. And we will provide that where there's space. The properties or the parcels are very close to the roadway in some areas, so we won't have room to provide a wide amenity zone or open space, but we will provide that where we have the space to do so.
Any other questions from our community members about 51st?
Catherine, it's Anthony. Hi, Tracy. How long have you been in the community, if I can ask?
I actually moved in January, so fairly.
Okay, terrific. We also have a community advisory group where we meet monthly and share information on all of the projects that are happening in the community, much like the website that I mentioned earlier. If you'd like to receive information about those meetings, if I can get your email, I'd be happy to add you to the list.
Oh, thank you. Would that be like the website that you just shared?
Yeah, if you go to the website and sign up, then I can add you to our distribution list.
Okay, I actually was able to do it. I found the CAPTCHA, so
you won't
be the updates, but I can also share my.
Yeah, if you want to just give me your email, that'd be great.
Kevin, you got on. Welcome. We can see you now.
Right on. Thank you. I appreciate you sending me the link.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm sorry you had trouble getting on in the first place, but we're glad you're back.
No worries at all.
Any other questions, comments? So Michelle, I know we're a little bit early. I'm wondering if the other team is ready for moving the speakers.
Catherine, I have 2 more slides if I'm able to.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, please. Then
Okay.
I apologize.
No problem at all. So as shown on the map on the introduction slide, and Eric mentioned, we're also proposing a sidewalk along Clarkson Street between 51st Avenue and 52nd Avenue on both sides of the roadway. And we're also looking to install sidewalk on the south side of 52nd Avenue between Washington Street and the alleyway, which is directly east of Clarkson Street. We're proposing it on the south side only because north side is part of Adams County. So this is at the concept level. We have not done any design for this yet, but we wanted to talk about what we're looking at designing. We will be looking to maintain on-street parking within the existing right-of-way. We will be maintaining access to the properties in this area at their driveways they have today. And we will also be working with property owners for this part of the project as well. And it will be installing drainage facilities or underground pipes so that drainage and the runoff is conveyed off the road and into the Heron Pond park area. Does anybody have any questions on the Clarkson Street project? And I think we will be back to the neighborhood to present updates as we proceed with design in the future.
Did you say the sidewalks? I assume that there's going to be some eminent domain on the people's as far as the people's properties go. How much are you guys going to? How much property are you guys going to take away from the front sides of those properties?
Kevin, are you talking about the overall, like for 51st Avenue or Clarkson, or just the overall project?
Clarkson. I'm really just curious. I think it's great. I think it's needed. I'm just curious. Mm-hmm. I actually just sold a house recently on Clarkson to another neighbor of mine. I know he's not on the call, so I was just going to relay the information to him.
Great. Well, I can show you, Kevin. I want to hop back a few slides if you have a second, and I'll show you the right-of-way is quite wide on Clarkson Street. Looking at the left-hand side of the screen, the purple line is the right-of-way line.
Gotcha.
So as we have it drafted in, again, this is not designed yet, but a sidewalk and curb will fit within the right-of-way, and we can still maintain 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction, and 8-foot parking lane, parallel parking lane on both sides of the street. So with this part of the project, we don't anticipate any eminent domain. We don't need to acquire any right-of-way. We may, however, have a temporary grading easement so we can grade in behind the sidewalk to match the existing ground behind the sidewalk.
Okay, very nice. I think it'll be a great addition to that area and being able to access Heron Park. So yeah, it's great.
Thank you. And I wanted to review the timeline for this work. As I mentioned, we're currently in the preliminary design phase, so we have plenty of opportunity to take your feedback, and incorporate that if we're able to. The final design, which is the end of the design process, we hope to be there by the early next year. The right-of-way procurement process, where we'll be acquiring these easements and such, that's an 18-month process typically. So that will take some time, begin early next year and continue through the middle of 2023. Once we acquire the property needed, we will advertise and bid the project out. And if that goes as planned, we will be in construction in the early part of 2024.
Any questions or comments? Any, Dave, anything else that is there another slide? I don't want to cut you off again.
Oh, that's the end of the slide.
Okay, great.
I can go back as needed or discuss any points. I'm happy to do that.
Any questions or comments?
Hey, Eric, as the overall project manager for the Washington Area Program of Projects, but we have like 2 minutes left. Anything you want to share with community members?
Well, I think there is opportunity for people to contribute ideas to the design at this point. And I think this is a really good time to do it. We're just beginning the design process. So we're on our way. So this is the time to comment if you want to comment.
Eric, if they want to participate in the design process, how would they do that?
This is a good avenue for it right here, this type of thing. They could also send emails through the website to Anthony, and we can work through that and do that type of communication. Okay. Somebody has an idea.
So if there's anyone interested in participating in this design process with Dave and Eric, please let Anthony know. His email address is in the chat room, and don't hesitate to reach out. We're always looking for folks to give input on the design.
Yeah, and Catherine, and to that point, there is no question that, Tracy, I know you said you were asking a silly question. There are no silly questions. This is new information for community members, but Eric is happy to, meet with you individually, putting Eric on the spot here. He met with a property owner last week and toured 51st Avenue because some of his property was going to be impacted with this potential or with this design. And I think just being able to meet with him in the community and actually tour his property helps that community, that business owner tremendously. So please, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're happy to get on the phone with you, visit with you over coffee, etc. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move everybody. Or no, we're not going to move any of you. We're going to move the presenters. So hang on just a moment while we move them from one room to another.
And while we're waiting, Dave, thank you for presenting this evening on 51st Avenue. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Anytime.
The other breakout session is just wrapping up. So let me go back there. They're having a pretty heated discussion. So let me go back there and make sure, and then we'll move the speakers over. Everybody stay placed. I'll be a little harsh on them. Hold on a second.
Well, I would like to take advantage. I never been part of like a process like this. What kind of recommendations would you give us to, kind of get some ideas that we can, bring up to you guys?
Actually, Tracy, the idea is that your suggestion about speed signs is really exactly the types of things that we want to hear. And any ideas that make your life better as we construct these. And because you're right there in the neighborhoods, Eric and Dave and others in Dottie really want to hear from you, because they have a certain set of eyeglasses that they look through, but because you're a resident in that area, your insight is very, very valuable to them. So anything that you can say, you know, did you think about this? And they can say, well, yeah, we did, or no, we didn't, and that's a great idea. Those are the types of things, having your input, because you're right in that neighborhood, really make a difference to the planners.
And I would add too that the parcels that are remnants at the intersection, and there's opportunities for folks to say they want it as an entryway, they want it landscaped, they want it grass, they want a little park, but what do they want it to look like?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that our presenters are here to talk about the connectivity study or connectivity effort. Is that correct, Beth?
Yes. Okay. So I think we're ready to roll, and I'm going to go a little quicker this time. Can you all see the screen? All right. All right. So, all right, we're gonna walk through this, and this is, I just want to bring to your attention, you know, one of the big things that's been studied for some time now is Washington Street. And I know there was a study in 2018, and we have a lot of eager people who want to know where we're going with Washington. One of the things we're trying to do is look at Washington as well as the whole surrounding area to really understand what's changed in the recent years. So just a reminder, we had a lot of plans that came online before 2017. And then since 2017, we've done a lot more planning. So many of these, like the Globeville Stormwater Study, the Washington Street Study, were completed since 2017. And there are a number of projects underway now in the community, including the community transportation, which is bikes on 51st, Lincoln and 45th, the sidewalk program, which we're going to talk about after the breakout sessions. The levee design and construction will be going on here and is underway, the design is. And the 48th outfall is a connection that it will bring a greenway and multimodal mobility connection through the community, through Argo and all the way to the river. So lots of things underway in addition to the Washington Street final design. So we want to keep that in mind. Quick look at our schedule. We will be moving through some of our alternatives and discussion and work with you over the summer, and then wrapping up and positioning ourselves to move into that final design of Washington. So hopefully here in the next 6 months, we'll be looking at starting that final design of Washington. So I want to note a couple things, and I'll go a little quickly through this, but you know, this is an area where we face a tremendous number of barriers. So railroads, just at every turn, it feels like, coupled with, of course, the highways. And everyone on this call, of course, is familiar with this. And I just like to point out a few fun facts as to how did we get this way, among many, many reasons, but the railroads were a major contributor to the development of the Globeville area, and you can see all of them cutting through. Argo Junction was a connection to the north and to the west. So heavy amount of railroad activity, coupled with all the smelters that were so active, you know, following the silver mining in various phases of our historic development. This picture just kind of highlights that a lot of the urban development of our city in the early days, this is 1890, was really east of the river. And over here, you can see Globeville Elyria-Swansea and the smelters. And so there's always been a bit of a barrier and a separation with the river and the railroads and that big swath of industrial space. So this isn't anything new to today. It came from the beginning of our history, okay, as a city. And this is just a picture that points out to you that one of the key connections that was made was a viaduct at 23rd, which is essentially where Park Avenue is. And this was a major connection for the Globeville and Elyria-Swansea area with the rest of the city on the other side of the industrial railroads and river. So let's go back to, so all of that is what in shapes this map that we have to look at here today. So we have a lot to deal with. And today, our primary connections are occurring along Washington and along Brighton Boulevard. These are the two primary roads that serve this area, in addition, of course, to the highways. These are our local roads, so to speak. And you can see just here on Washington, there's anywhere between 24,000 and 34,000 trips a day. This is a very heavily used road. We have to take that into account in our design. And some of that movement is also truck traffic. And so we really have to think about all aspects of our design of Washington. I want to just point out for you a few of the barriers, right? So when you look at these roads coupled with the barriers that are on the map behind, you can see there's all kinds of places where we cannot cross, we can't
Thanks for
move
saying goodbye.
and we have trouble getting through, even just the 38th Street underpass, right? So these are the kinds of things that we have to tackle as we go forward. And then of course, last but not least, in our understanding of connectivity, we're missing sidewalks as well, which we're going to talk about here this evening. But just a reminder, there's an overall lack of connectivity in lots of places, coupled with missing sidewalks. And I'd like to ask if anyone wants to jump in here and throw out anything they have to say about what do you see as most critical gaps or biggest concerns of connectivity in our area that you want us to be aware of. Don't hesitate to just jump in. Okay. Well, if we don't have a lot of participants jumping in right now, I'd like to go ahead and share with you what our community advisory group told us. So sidewalks coming in top of the list, of course. 38th underpass, a big one. Just generally speaking, safe walking, biking, and connections needed. Okay, and they'd also like for us to consider equity as we make these infrastructure investments. Are we thinking about the impact they have on our community? And are we looking for safe pedestrian and bicycle access throughout the area in addition to vehicles? And as we look at all the projects that are underway in this area, are we contemplating Globeville as a place? Are all these projects pushing us to become a place, or are they just a series of projects? So that's a really important thing for us to consider as we go forward. So I'm just going to point a few out. These are, I'm going to couple these up with this one, but the dark orange are the projects that are underway, and the lighter orange are the projects that are planned. And by planned, we mean they are moving forward in some sort of planning and design exercise, not construction yet. So you can see here that there is this plan along the levee, and that includes both the levee and a trail that's being built in coordination with the levee, a new and improved trail. Washington Street itself, which will host transit, bikes, pedestrians, and vehicles, of course. 48th here is an opportunity to sort of link everything from at least Broadway down through the park, over and all the way to the river. So making bike and pedestrian access viable here through the middle. And of course, coupling here over with 44th Avenue over to the Fox area, and some planned things coming out of the Fox Station study. So lots on our plate here. And of course, we have a few dashed lines, which are ideas about, can we increase beyond just what's planned? Can we actually come up with other ideas to increase local connectivity? So maybe it's 50th, maybe it's 49th. Maybe there's opportunities to link to the river here somewhere. Maybe there's a new underpass of I-70 in addition to Lincoln Street. So just sort of thinking ahead to places where we might want to see increased connectivity in the future. So if you kind of couple all those improvements with our barrier circles, you kind of start to see that, yes, some of these are being addressed. we are making some progress in reducing those connectivity barriers. And I'm sure there's a lot more to go, which is where you guys come in. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to jump in.
I have a question.
Great.
Actually, going back a little bit, when you said, for I guess asking us to decide or to decide whether or not it's just a string of projects or a place, can you give a little bit more description of what you mean there? And then also, I was going to say, as far as kind of my thoughts, so I've been in Globeville 5 years now, and I have always been, it's pretty crazy to me how there's 3 points of access to get into my area of Globeville. I actually live right across the street from Argo Park. And there's 3 points of access. So it does, really close us off. So what I would say is that I do like seeing these new access areas, the one that you're talking about on 48th and different things like that, I think will be very good. As far as if there was something on if I was going to prioritize it, I think that the bridge going underneath underneath 40, Washington at, was it 38th? We're all
down here
right now. Yeah. I think that's really important especially for people living in Globeville, wanting to access Rhino.
Okay, great. So this is this better connection between Globeville and everything that's happening down here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like two different worlds.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great note. Yeah, and by the comment, it was something that came out of our community advisory group discussions, is that it was just a request that as the city works on Washington and works on 48th and works on the levee and builds Heron Pond and the park area, as all this is happening, can we be sure that we're not just building individual projects that are nice, but we want them to work together, right? We want to make sure that you can go from 48th and the Argo Park area easily and conveniently, and maybe it's up Pearl and across 50th and 50th up to the park, right? Where are those pieces that make the whole thing come together? And that way it all works as one place, not just a series of projects. That's really what the comment was.
Okay. So I'll keep that in mind. And in your talking, I do have another question.
Yeah.
Can you show me the connectivity to Argo Park? Let's say Argo Park to the new light rail over on.
At Fox.
Because I've always wondered. Like, obviously, I see it when I'm driving on 70, but I don't know where is safe.
It's a secret.
Yeah, where is this? What's a safe route for me to take on foot to that?
Okay, so the best way for you is to take 48th Street up to Lincoln, or you can go down here and catch Lincoln here. But Lincoln will take you, and we're missing this line on the map, and that's my fault. But Lincoln is the underpass, right? That takes you to 45th, and you'll just come around here and up and over the 44th Bridge, which does have a bike
lane. It does.
lane.
I jog it. It does.
Yeah, it's not that pleasant, but the 41st and Fox station plan has improvements in it if you want to check that out. But so hoping that this someday will all be sort of improved and made more comfortable, and additional sidewalks are going in through all of this. That's part of the sidewalk program. But over the 44th Bridge and down Fox to the station. But you can see that all these lightly colored improvements are planned. They're not happening yet, but they're on the books to be able to connect you more directly all the way across 40th and down another road that ties you right into the station platform and ties you potentially all the way back to 48.
That would be really cool. I like that going back. So what about the new one going in on Brighton.
On Brighton, we have improvements that are already in, right, all the way up to 70. And then these improvements that take you to this transit center are also in, and as far as I know, are completed. I don't think any of those are outstanding still. And this transit station is in and live, or soon to be live. And so that is coming together. And then as part of the National Western Center, they're looking at how to link across 51st and through the site and to this transit center. There's currently a planned pedestrian bridge to make that happen, although it's quite expensive.
But right now, I would just, because I haven't drove it, I'll be honest with you, I should by now, but I would just cross over Washington on 47th, right? And go over there. Is there a walkway there?
So much, not so much. There is underneath. This isn't too pleasant, but that is right now the primary crossing, and it brings you up to this side, right? Which gets you to Brighton, which is then fine. So these two bridges, 48th and 51st, are designed to hopefully start really bridging the gap, so to speak, in where we can't get through.
Hey, Beth, it's Catherine, and I'm going to be your time check.
Absolutely.
And Kevin, we would love to connect you and Beth, because Beth is the master of all maps and work going on in this area. So let's make sure that we connect the two of you. But Beth, we're running a little bit short on time.
Absolutely. So let's jump ahead. Yeah,
thanks,
absolutely.
Kevin.
Let's jump ahead to Washington itself. So I do want to point out that it is equally important to talk not only about Washington, but also all these connections, because for Washington to work really well, we also need to be able to move around the whole area. So it does go hand in hand. But we pulled some of the information out of the neighborhood plan, which is where Washington got started. They said, let's look at parking, let's look at the pedestrian environment, let's look at amenities like trees and other things we can do. What about bikes? So these were some of the priorities that the neighborhood plan identified. And then the Washington Street study was a furthering of those neighborhood priorities into this design. And this is what the outcome was of the study. And that included 3 travel lanes, 1 in each direction in the center turn lane on Washington, parking, amenity zone for trees, and a very wide sidewalk, which could be used not only by pedestrians, but by bicyclists that are trying to sort of access things along Washington. So that was the outcome. And that is what we are looking at as the design team for Washington to be able to put this to work. So just to kind of keep us moving, what the design team has done is sort of taken that picture and laid it on top of our current street. And this is where we have to kind of roll up our sleeves and really get into this discussion. It doesn't exactly fit as is, but we're going to start working through that design and figuring out how to make it fit and where we can phase improvements to allow for certain parts to be completed. Maybe in the future we can go wider. We just have to sort all this out. So I want to note a few things for you. There are right-of-way constraints. That means it's really hard to fit the whole thing in the right-of-way we have out there today. So that begs the question of what do we do for that? There are a lot of access needs. So right now there are 16 access points along the east side of the street and 19 along the west side. So a lot there to consider. Do we keep all those access points? Are they critical for businesses to stay in business? Of course. So we have to look at all those pieces. We also need to think not only about the existing development, but what kind of future development might be coming to the street and what improvements to the street are needed to support that future development, like parking, for instance, or other access points. So, and then there are several areas that have some historic buildings. They're not landmarks officially, but they are built after 1970, or I'm sorry, excuse me, before 1970, and that makes them of historical significance. So we have to look at those. And there are also a lot of buildings that sit right up against the right of way. Some of them are within 5 feet of the edge of the street today. And so that's a very challenging condition because we have to decide how do we work our street section in against all the buildings that are also kind of scattered along the way. So these are all the things that the design team is now really getting into and really trying to deal with. And I just want to make the note that even though it's challenging and we're going to be having to work with all these issues, the intent of the city is to develop Washington in the manner that the study identified. So a comfortable, pedestrian-friendly place to be that carries cars and trucks, accommodates bicycles, and is very much comfortable and safe for the pedestrian experience. And so that's really kind of where the design is headed. And as we progress over the next several months, we'll be back to you with options and questions and discussion about how that design is playing out.
I know that we're going to run out of time in just about 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
And if you do have questions and we get sort of back at everybody together, please put your question in. If we don't get it answered, please get it in the chat room so that we can get back to you. So I don't know if anybody has any quick questions right now, but Beth's here. Any comments, concerns, questions that you might have before we all get back into the main room again?
Okay, well, we did have a question in the other room about the timing of things, and so for Washington itself. And so I think we're hoping to finish up this portion of the study this summer sometime, later summer, and then be positioned to move into final design over the next year. So the design process will take a while, and then after that comes construction. So it's a multi-year process here just to prepare everyone.
Again, please use the, yes, Tracy, we are going to have more of these. We're planning them frequently. We don't want to overtire you, but it's on our schedule. Anthony is working out a schedule over the next few months where we will continue to have these community updates.
Yes.
So yes, and also you're more than welcome to participate or listen in on the community action group meetings that are held once a month, and by contacting Anthony, he can give you the schedule. So
yeah, so Catherine, to that point, Tracy, Kevin, and I believe it's Ann, I will add you to our community advisory group distribution list. The CAG meets every month. It's the 4th Thursday of each month from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Currently via Zoom. And I will send you that link and information next week. But would love to have you join us at the community advisory group meeting. And then Joe has a question in the chat. What do the colors signify? For example, oops, it went away. The outer yellow.
Yeah.
Beth.
Yeah, so this is just the design team's first attempt at trying to define. The pink is the existing right-of-way, like that's the edge of the street. The yellow is like the amenity zone and or park, I think that might be sidewalk, sorry, that's my fault. The green is the amenity zone. And so this is sort of an idea, their first just attempt at, all right, let's put all of that on the street. And where does it fit easily inside the pink, and where do we have a few bumps in getting those things in there? So just to be fair, it doesn't actually all fit right now, so we do have to work through it. So that's why you'll want to tune into upcoming meetings.
And then more than likely, we'll host an open house, another open house in midsummer.
In July sometime, hopefully.
Hopefully, we will actually be able to do it in person. That's the hope anyway, but I'll see, stay tuned. But the CAG meeting for May 27th will definitely be via Zoom.
yeah, so that's next week. So if you're interested in listening in on that, please, they're open meetings and we'd love to have you, so don't hesitate. And we're able to go into more depth in each of these, with each of these projects with the Community Action Group. So this, I think we're getting back together.
So Catherine, you ready?
Yes, we are.
I'll shut them down. I'll shut the other group down.
Okay.
I'll be right back. And then we'll all come back together.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
Well, we may get some more folks coming in, but these are pretty short. They're just 20 minutes. So I think we should probably go ahead and get started. And I see that we don't have too many people. So I think if it's possible, would you mind just unmuting and saying hello and just introducing yourself? Susie?
Hi, sorry, that's my dog. Susie and Sam Benton.
We own business property on 51st and Washington.
Oh, great. Okay. Very good. Mike Ames.
Yeah, hey guys, Mike Ames, Tracy Chinchilla, and I live at 5095 Sherman Street. So nice to meet everybody.
Great. Joe Henry. Joe, we can't hear you. Okay, well, Joe's working on that. Maybe Jim. There's a Jim on the line.
Yes, good evening, Beth. This is Jim Geist, and I am actually with the city.
Great,
I am in the Department of Transportation Build Group. So I'll be involved with the project for a long time.
Great.
Right through construction if I last that long.
All right. Tim, do you want to say hi?
You bet. Good evening. I'm Tim Sandoz, Executive Director of the Office of Community and Business Engagement for DOTI. Great to be here. Thank you.
And Karen?
Karen Good. I'm also in the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure and led the beginning of this effort, the Washington Street Study.
Fabulous. And I'm Beth Fogelsing, and with me is Julia Walker, and we're both from OB Consulting and working on these projects. So I see one more number, 303-936-5421. So if you're out there and you want to say hi, please go ahead.
Hi, John Sapien here.
John, great. I didn't recognize your number. Okay, fabulous. And
Hi,
Joe,
John.
you
Hi,
wanna
how
just
are
wave?
you?
Good. Sorry, Beth.
And Joe's in the corner up there on my screen. And Joe has property on 51st. So if we can't seem to hear him, but we know he's there. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get started. And I just want to walk you through a little bit of some of what we're looking at, both at Washington and the surrounding area. So this map here illustrates, this is of course Washington Street, right? Kind of continuing here onto the other side of the river.
I'm not seeing your screen. I don't know if everyone else is, but I'm not.
Nope.
Okay, sorry. Let me double check.
Right.
Maybe I didn't quite capture that. All right, thank you. Better?
It's almost there. There it is.
There we go.
Okay. How odd. Okay, perfect. Great. Okay, back to, so this is our study area, right? And here's Washington itself. And we're looking at two things. We're looking at the corridor, but we're also kind of looking at the whole area for overall connectivity, okay? And I'm gonna share some things, but please, I can't see the chat since I'm sharing. So just unmute yourself and jump in if you have a question, okay? I want to point out that one of the reasons that we're kind of looking at this whole area one more time is to just understand that we did a lot of planning efforts through 2017, including the neighborhood plan, the National Western Center Vision Plan, some others. Heron Pond started then. And then after 2017, we actually have been engaged in a lot of additional planning efforts. So the Washington Street study that Karen was referring to, the Globeville Stormwater Study, the PEDS Trails and Transit for the whole city, the urban waterways, 41st and Fox, and NUCO, the National Western Center, has been conducting a number of studies. So I just want to point out that with all this other work going on, it was kind of time to just take a second look and understand where we sit with this whole area. And then recognizing that these are the things that are currently underway. So the Community Transportation Networks project is about implementing bike lanes. So that's underway in this area on 51st, Lincoln, and potentially 45th. The sidewalk program is underway, which we're going to talk about more this evening. The levee design is being updated and constructed, so we'll have an improved levee that will keep the river out of Globeville. And we have the 48th Avenue outfall, which is a stormwater project, but comes with it with some greenway and additional bike and pedestrian connectivity. So another big element of how to pull this whole area together. And then of course, 51st, which you'll hear about in the other session here. And eventually, last but not least, getting to Washington Street final design. So our program that we're working on here, just in terms of connectivity in Washington, we've been going for a few months. We're here in this alternatives assessment phase. And as we move into the summer in June and July, we'll be looking at value engineering and really kind of dialing in some of the design elements that get us through the end of summer. So that's kind of our schedule for some of this work that precedes that final design effort on Washington. So one thing I just want to point out, and I'll try to go quickly, but you know, this area, Washington is a big part of this connectivity story, and we are really burdened with a lot of railroads that really prevent connectivity in a lot of places, as well as I-70 and I-25, which I'm sure is not news to anybody who's on the call, but just that this is a significant barrier to making improvements as we go forward. And I want to point out just a few fun facts in terms of history. One of the reasons why we have so many barriers is because this, of course, was home to the smelters and Argo Junction, and the railroads. Here you can see them passing through the Globeville community along with the smelters, serving the smelters and the mining business, traveling north and then traveling west toward Golden and into the mountains. So a big footprint came since the 1880s and with the railroad activity. Another look at the picture that is important to understand is that the east side of the city, on the east side of the river, is where the majority of our growth of city development went. And when you look at this picture, you can kind of see the smelters and Globeville and Elyria-Swansea are here on the west side and sort of removed from the activity of the urban center. And this is a map from 1890. This is a nice picture here because it says essentially what they did to increase that connectivity in the early 1900s is to build the viaduct. And this is a viaduct that was at 23rd, which is essentially where Park Avenue is. And this became the link between the city core, east of the rail tracks, the industrial uses, and the river that tied you out to Globeville and the smelters. So just kind of put this in your head because it gives you a sense of the challenges that we've faced in Globeville in terms of connectivity for many, many years, right? All spanning back to our historic development. So today, oh, and if someone wants to jump in, just let me know. Today, we rely heavily on Washington Street and Brighton Boulevard, really, to be the two primary connections into this area. We have some others here, 45th that crosses over I-25 toward Fox. We have some others here, Broadway, and which, oh, we're missing a line, connects down toward Garden Place at Lincoln. But the two main roads are Washington and Brighton itself. And we just a quick note, we look at traffic counts and we see that on Washington, for instance, we have between 24 and 34,000 trips a day. So a fair amount of traffic. And as you all know, this consists also of truck traffic and industry. So let's just walk through, what does this picture look like? These are the gaps in connectivity that we face. So of course we have a gap here between the north side of Globeville community and the south side, we'll call it, right, with I-70. We have gaps here with the railroads and the 38th underpass. We have a whole series of other gaps that kind of prevent us from moving, say, from the Fox Station area towards Sunnyside or north back toward 44th. We have gaps in the system that prevent us from getting across the river. This railroad acts as a gap as well, kind of ruining the connection between the community here west of the railroad and this industrial use that over time will change. So lots of ideas around how difficult it is to reconnect this community. And then I wanted to point out, just so we don't forget, of course, as part of that overall connectivity, we have gaps in our sidewalk program too, right? So we have, and we just want to, we're not going to talk about it right now, we're going to keep going, but this is of course a key component too of our ability to move around the Globeville area. So I want to just take a minute and ask, you know, as you experience your community, what do you see as some of the most critical gaps? And if you just want to take your mic off and throw out the things that you think are most important that we walk away from this meeting with, that would be great. Does anyone have anything to throw out there?
Don't be shy.
I just think there's so much to take in. It's like sometimes you don't know exactly what to ask, right?
Yes.
Well, I guess we're going to learn on where some of the greenways and things like that are going to end up going ultimately. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there plans for to kind of smooth Washington out a little bit? That's a pretty rough ride, especially around the railroad tracks in that area. Are there plans to get that road where it's a little bit more passable? Sometimes it feels like it's pretty confining, especially up around 51st in that area.
Definitely. Yes. And I'm if you hold that thought for just a second, we can get right into that, what we think is happening, what we're hoping to see happening at Washington.
Thanks.
All right. So I might share a few things that we heard from our community advisory group to that same question. And this little image right here illustrates the way that their answers came in as we held our meeting. And the larger the text, the more important that the more number of times that came in. So 38th is important, of course, sidewalks, safe walking, bridges. You know, you can kind of get a sense of what they threw out as being some of those things. And then other things they wanted this team to think about as we go forward with this are the equity considerations. When we build, you know, what has our infrastructure done to the community? Safe pedestrian and bicycle access, and placemaking, meaning as we make all these improvements to the area, are we actually developing a place? You know, are we helping the community and this neighborhood of Globeville, or are we just building projects? So that was a big one that folks wanted us to really focus on as we go forward here. So I wanted this image will get to a little bit of what is coming, and I'm just going to speed us up a little so we don't run out of time, but the darker orange are projects that are underway. So for instance, this piece of 51st here and the bridge that's going in at Nuco is an example of some of the improvements that are coming, right? And National Western Center Drive is going in, as well as 48th and Betty Cram Drive here. And the lighter colored are the things that are planned. So Washington improvements are definitely a planned improvement. And this image, this line across 48th that extends essentially from Broadway through Argo Park, down 48th, and then all the way to the river is the 48th Avenue stormwater outfall and Greenway. So that is in design right now. It's just getting going, but that will be a big connectivity component. In addition to solving some of our water issues, It will also improve bike and pedestrian activity as well. And there's a few others over here that connect improvements across the 44th Avenue Bridge over I-25 and toward the Fox Station. Some other ideas along the levee. We'll have new trails going in along the levee improvements, coupled up here with the improvements to the park. So, and those of course are complemented by the improvements along Brighton that have already gone in. So those are the planned projects. And then we have this idea of some more visionary projects, which might include, for instance, the crossing of 50th. I don't know if we can get across that rail, but these are just the ideas. How can we relink 50th or 49th? Can we tie ourselves in some form or fashion back up to 51st and the river? Do we need another underpass of I-70? Is that something we're looking for? Just some of these ideas that are a little longer term, but things we don't want to forget about. So that's kind of a picture of what's starting to come together in this area. And it's a lot. I know this map is a lot to look at. And if you look at it with those circles of where there's those gaps, you can see that a lot of these are actually starting to address those gaps in the system, which is fabulous, even though more work needs to be done, obviously, but they're starting to address those gaps. So let's move forward to Washington itself. So I just want to remind everybody, that's kind of the picture of overall connectivity. And then we have Washington itself, and the neighborhood plan brought up a whole lot of things that were so critical to the success of Washington. We have to have our travel lanes, of course. We have to consider on-street parking. A big component of the design should be the pedestrian realm, making a place for people to walk that is safe and comfortable, like you were asking, Mike, really taking that rough edge off of Washington, maybe an amenity zone with trees or other improvements, consideration of bikes and where they go, and then of course, always remembering the business impacts. So those are sort of the biggies that came out of the neighborhood plan, and that informed the Washington Street study in 2018. So the Washington Street study worked on this for a long time, but this is essentially the cross section that came out of that study. And just a reminder, and if you're on the phone, it's a 3-lane cross section, 1 southbound travel lane of 11 feet, 1 northbound travel lane, and a center turn lane that allows for some of the trucks and different things to take place. It also includes an 8-foot amenity zone on either side of the street. So that is your tree lawn, your tree plantings, something that kind of improves the environment. And then a 12-foot sidewalk, which is accessible by pedestrians, but also for small bike connections as needed to move along the street or get to places. So this was a really important outcome of the Washington Street study that said this is where the community wants to go. So now I want to just, in terms of an update, quickly, this is what we have 5 minutes left. Okay, so this is that cross section laid in along Washington Street. I know it just looks like a bunch of lines, but basically what it shows us is that we have a little trouble fitting that whole big picture in to the street as it exists right now. So getting all of this in and done is challenging, and we'll have to work in our design process to figure out how to make it fit and or how to phase some of that fitting, okay? There are also, all these blue dots represent the access points for businesses that are in place today. So also a really important part of the picture. We have 16 access points on the east side, on the river side, and we have 19 access points today on the west side of the street. So all of that has to be taken into consideration. Can we consolidate access? Do we need all of those? And we definitely don't want to do anything to impact the existing businesses. And we also want to consider in that not just the existing businesses, but the future businesses that might be coming to the street. So what might those needs be? And do they need parking, for instance? What is coming to this area? A couple other key things to point out is there are some historic properties that are prior to 1970, which basically makes them part of our historic significance. We have to look at those. We have to think about those as we design the street and try to not impact some of those. And then we have to also look at the location of the businesses and structures that are out there. Some of those businesses are 5 feet away from the existing roadway. Others are up to 15 or more feet away. And so those all become a factor in how do we fit this proposed cross section. So just to go back to that. So how do we actually make this fit within what we have to work with out there today? So those are all the things that the design team is currently working on and laying in and sorting out. And our next opportunity to come back to you in the summer, we will be bringing back how that looks and where we have issues or where it doesn't fit or where we want to tweak something in order to make it fit. All that kind of outcome of the design process is what we'll be bringing back next time. So with that, is there anybody that has a few questions they want to ask or any clarity?
What's the ETA for that to be completed, Beth?
So we're hoping to start to move from this analysis phase into final design end of summer, first of fall kind of time frame. And then over the next year, that final design would take place. So it'll be a big year because we'll be answering a lot of tough questions. And to keep in mind, the city's intent is to meet that outcome from the Washington Street study. So we're really working hard to figure out how to fit all of that.
Yeah, so it's probably going to take a few years for this to really be finished, right?
Yes, so to get to through final design and into construction for sure, probably around a 3-year horizon, depending on what we decide with the community, what we decide to do.
Oh, looks great. Looks exciting.
Beth?
Yeah.
Beth? John
Yes.
Sapien?
Yes, John.
One of the things that's been on my mind for, oh God, I don't know how many years. Even when we started the Globeville planning process, 9-10 years ago?
Yeah.
And the issue of Washington Street always came up. And there's so many issues there that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, and I'll probably catch hell from some of my neighbors, Washington Street's going to have to be widened eventually. Be realistic about it. The business there, they need access. The neighbors that live there are going to need access, and there's going to be more people living in Globeville with all of the other developments on the east and west side of Globeville. So I think when we struggled through the neighborhood planning process several years back, no one seemed to be able to put aside their personal biases about our neighborhood. And I think somewhere in the planning process that needs to be revisited, we have to be honest about the future of our neighborhood. And the fact that the traffic is there, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
Businesses are there and they provide economic opportunity for people in the neighborhoods. And there's going to be more with the future development. So somewhere down the line, we have to reconvene the neighborhood process and make an honest and straightforward plan about widening Washington Street. And that's going to take a lot of money because the curve at the railroad tracks at, what is that, 46, 48th?
Yeah, right in there.
Yeah, that's the turning point there. And it's got to be done. I don't see any way around it. We're not going to do it next year or the following year. But I think one of the things we're going to have to do is reconvene and update the neighborhood plan to accommodate the realities of the future. Because what's happened in the neighborhood, and as in the past, the realities have dealt a harsh blow to our neighborhood. But somehow we survived. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. But I think that has to be addressed.
Hey, John,
Okay.
hold it. This
Yes.
breakout session's over and the other group is waiting. So I'm going to.
Sure, go ahead. We can deal with all this later.
Thanks,
Yes, John, but we will follow up, okay?
Definitely.
Thank you.
We will switch. Everybody stay where they are. Haha. We're going to switch presenters and then we'll start the second half of the breakout session.
Okay, I'm leaving the room. I hope I'm doing this right.
So we're bringing Eric and Dave over. Have you joined, Eric? There they are. And then they can start the second session.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's open house. I'm happy to be here to discuss the 51st Avenue Improvements Project. My name is Dave Duzak. I'm with the engineering firm RS&H. We're working with the city to design these improvements. So I'm going to ask Eric Brackey with Dottie to give an introduction, and then I will jump into the details of our design and walk you through our proposed improvements. And Mike's.
See any slides?
Yep, it's coming. Okay.
Good, thank you. Good evening. I'm Eric Brackey. I'm the acting city deputy engineer for Dottie, and also the principal manager in charge of the Washington area program of projects. And when we first started this process about a year ago, it became very clear that 51st Avenue needed immediate attention. Between Heron Pond being constructed and the bridge coming over from Newco, it was important to be able to correct those deficiencies in the roadway of 51st Avenue and provide the connectivity that's going to be necessary for when the park opens and Newco opens and there's traffic on the bridge. It's being done in various segments. The Heron Pond is going to be responsible for the section between the bridge and Emerson, and the city is doing that portion between Emerson and Logan Street. And with the realignment of the intersection at at Washington, right now it's two T intersections separated by about 60, 65 feet. It causes a lot of operational issues. It's not friendly to bikes or peds. So we have started that design. We are moving forward, and this is a good opportunity tonight for people to provide comments on where we are in the preliminary design. Next slide, please. And it is a complicated project. It's not just threading in a roadway that we have right-of-way issues. We have existing conditions that make it pretty difficult. We have drainage issues, utility issues, pavement issues. And so tying this all together, here you can see some of the issues that I was just mentioning on Washington Street, or east and west of Washington Street and along Clarkston. Part of the project also includes a bond project to add sidewalks on Clarkston and 52nd Avenue and tying those together. And so that could all be done and bid at one time. But it will be a complicated project, but we're taking it on and looking forward to making these improvements. David, yours.
Okay, Eric, thank you. So I'll review the key improvements for this project first, and then we can jump into the details regarding the cross-section that we're proposing and how it will look from plan view or from an aerial view. So we're looking to construct sidewalks on both sides of 51st Avenue and include a buffer between the roadway and the sidewalk where there's a room to do so. We'll also be installing bike facilities along both sides of 51st Avenue, either as an on-road bike lane or a shared use path, which is a wide sidewalk that can accommodate both people walking and biking. We will be realigning the Washington Street intersection at 51st Avenue. As Eric mentioned, there's two different intersections now, they're offset. And so our goal is to shift the eastbound approach to the south to meet the westbound approach at one single point. And finally, we're looking to improve the railroad crossing immediately east of Logan Street and to install sidewalks to fill in the gap in the sidewalk network at that location. So I'll review now a cross section both east and west of Washington Street. So to the west of Washington Street, there are two travel lanes existing, one in each direction. And then there is an existing sidewalk and curb and trees on the north side, which were recently constructed as part of the private development. So under our proposed improvements on the bottom cross section, we will maintain that newer sidewalk and curb and trees. And then we will install a bike lane with a buffer between the bike lane and the road and the travel lane. On the road, we'll have two bike lanes, one in each direction. And then we will install a sidewalk on the south side and a curb to more or less match the north side of the road. To the east of Washington Street, under existing conditions, there's a lot of open pavement. There's no lane markings. There's nowhere to walk or bike in this area. So our improvements include constructing a wide sidewalk called a shared use path, which can accommodate both people walking and biking. We'll have an amenity zone, and I'll describe that in a few minutes, a new curb and gutter, and then we'll maintain one travel lane in each direction. And I will note that this configuration matches the proposed roadway work on 51st Avenue immediately east of our project limits that the Heron Pond project is constructing, and also matches the improvements that the new bridge over the Platte River is constructing. So all this work will be one cohesive project when it's all said and done. So now I'm going to jump into looking at an aerial graphic and walk you through different segments of the project. So I want to zoom in a moment for different slides, but this is kind of the overall project. And when we jump to the next slide, I'll begin at the western project limit at Logan Street. And as you probably might know, there's a sidewalk to the west of Logan Street, but it abruptly ends at Logan, and there's not much, and there's gaps in the sidewalk network east of Logan. So our project will construct a new sidewalk on both sides of 51st, beginning at Logan Street. And the first element we come to is the railroad crossing. We are working with the railroad to design an appropriate crossing for us to include sidewalks at this location. The railroad also is looking to upgrade their road crossing and placing concrete panels across the roadway. We will also be improving or updating the warning signs on the approach to the railroad and the pavement markings as well. I will say this is at the preliminary design stage, so we do have an opportunity tonight to hear from you and your feedback and potentially incorporate your comments into our design. So as we continue east of the railroad, I mentioned the existing sidewalk on the north side, which is shown on this graphic. We're going to maintain that and not construct anything new, and then construct sidewalk on the south side of 51st Avenue. And I should mention the colors. It's on the legend here, but the gold color is the sidewalk or shared use path. The blue or gray color is the amenity zone, and the orange color is the proposed curb and gutter. The amenity zone is basically an open space between the curb and sidewalk. It can be used as for a variety of things, including for just grass or trees or landscaping or a bench. So we're still working through details with this project of what we'll be placing at the amenity zone, but we do have a wide zone as we're able to have between the curb and sidewalk. I'll also mention that we will be working with property owners regarding their access points or driveways. And our goal is to maintain those access points more or less as they are today. But we'll be meeting with owners further along in the process. We have not had those conversations yet, but if you see your property here, we haven't forgotten about you, and we will be accommodating your driveway with our design. So before I move on from this slide, does anyone have any questions about this part of 51st Avenue? Okay, I'll move forward and we can always come back to this if we need to. So the next slide shows the Washington Street intersection. As I mentioned, we are shifting the eastbound leg to the south to match up with the westbound leg at one single point. There's an existing traffic signal on the eastbound approach, which will be removed, and we'll construct a new traffic signal where the four legs meet. As I mentioned, we're at the preliminary design phase, so we are going to be looking at the corner radius, or where the curb ramps are, to make sure that we're tightening the radius up so the crossings are shorter if we're able to do that. So this is just the preliminary exhibit, and we will be updating this as we go, but just wanted to mention that as well. As we cross Washington Street, the bike facility just shifts from being on the road to on the wide sidewalk or the shared use path, and that continues east of Washington Street. I will also mention the green shade is the remaining open space that the city will have available to them after this construction is complete. And I do have a slide in a minute to talk about what opportunities may be we may have to serve the neighborhood in those open spaces. Does anyone have any questions on the intersection I'm showing on the screen? Okay, I'll move forward, and again, I can come back if needed.
And Dave, I was just going to add that if folks have questions after the fact, they can always reach out individually. Sometimes you want to ask a question more as on a one-on-one basis, and we're happy to follow up with you that way too. So just FYI.
Correct. As we continue east, we will cross Clarkson Street, and our project ends at Emerson Street. The off-white color on your screen is the proposed improvements as part of the Heron Pond project, which was updated earlier in this open house. So that project will be constructed first, but when it is constructed and then when we construct our project, they'll match at the same point, and there'll be one cohesive improvement project. So I wanted to open it up to a group discussion about the overall project, the intersection of Washington Street, and the remnant parcel I mentioned a minute ago with the green shade. This was discussed at earlier community meetings. We have not worked on this concept since then, but we wanted to bring that back to the forefront of discussion of how this space could potentially serve the neighborhood. Ideas we got from previous public meetings include a community plaza, a neighborhood park, and we just want to hear your feedback or comments about what we could potentially do with this open space. So I'll leave it, I'll let people ask questions at this point.
I'm not a business owner there, but I'm just curious. It looks like based on the realignment of the street there on 51st, it looks like it's going through a lot of businesses there. Are those businesses going to have to relocate, or how are you guys going to handle that? Just curious.
That's great. That's a great point. Great question. Yes, the business on the southwest corner is affected.
Yeah.
They'll have to relocate. That is correct. Our goal of the project is to minimize property impacts as much as possible, but there are some impacts with this type of project. So we will have those discussions with them in the future.
Okay, so they haven't been contacted yet. You guys are going to start reaching out and talking to those guys.
There have been some discussions with some property owners, but not all of them at this point.
And
Okay.
just to follow up on that, Mike, this was something that was in the plan stage. This isn't out of the blue new. This was something that was in the Washington Street plan stage. And as we move forward, we do follow the federal process for relocation. So it's fairly detailed and complex and ensures that property owners get fair market value and also support from the city and relocation and all kinds of details that go into.
The concept of, I think it's eminent domain, is that kind of what's being used there?
Not at all.
Okay.
Generally, that is our last resort. We go through a negotiation for property. Eminent domain is if we can't come to a common agreement on property, but that is something that we rarely exercise as the city. We go through just a negotiation that fits the federal standards, even though we don't have federal funding in this project, but that's something that we always do. Eric, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, I was going to say that we do follow the Federal Uniform Relocation Act. It is a very rigorous process and time-consuming process, but we do make sure that fair market value is provided and relocation assistance if it's necessary. And we have an entire department that is involved with the real estate transactions. And those are the folks that will be reaching out primarily to the property owners to do those negotiations.
And keep in mind, this design isn't finalized yet. We need to have a finalized design to go through some of those details, but we are available for anyone who wants to talk preliminarily about that. And the green area that you see in the graphic to the north there, that remnant parcel is where the road used to be. So that is not, that is the right of way.
So I own that property on the northwest corner there. So in this scenario, I would lose my access from Washington Street. Or,
Dave, I'll let you talk, speak to that.
I'm sorry, I'd lose my access from 51st Street.
Right. Dave, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, I'll go back to this display here. As I mentioned, we have not worked out all these details just yet. So we need to talk with the owners, including yourself, to understand. I know you have an access on 51st Avenue where my mouse is. And so anything we do, we'll have to make sure that we understand what's going on. We have those discussions, but we're just not quite there yet. But those will have to happen soon.
Yeah. So that's
this isn't finalized. This isn't finalized either.
Not at all.
No.
It's just a great example of that we've got, we're just starting the refresh of the design and saying, hey, we're out in the public and we want to get some feedback and thoughts from you all.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you, John.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Several years back when this started, it was mentioned, and I can't remember who said it, but I kind of thought that'd be a unique, instead of an intersection, north, south, east, west, what do you call it? A turnaround? A circle?
A roundabout?
A roundabout. Like they have one at I-70 and Pecos Street.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's a double one there, I think.
That's correct.
Yeah. And I was, I need to say this. I'm on the authority for the National Western Center. And our concern is getting people in and out. And 51st Avenue is going to be, let's just be honest about it, heavy truck traffic. It's going to be moving in and out of the National Western Center, a lot of truck traffic coming through there. And I don't know whatever happened to the idea of a roundabout. Is that out of the question at this point, or is it still? It seems to be working fine over on Pecos Street. That's high traffic there.
I'll take that. We did at the beginning of this process. I am a huge roundabout fan, and that's sort of in my wheelhouse as an engineer. And we did take a look at that, and it requires quite a bit of space, and the property impacts would have been significantly greater than they are here to provide that roundabout. And so it was discounted. For a roundabout, even a single lane roundabout, this would take a circle with a diameter of about 150 feet. And so then you're into the restaurant, into other buildings, into more property. You can do it and it would be great, but the impact would be significant to the surrounding property owners.
Well, then my concern is at this. Are we doing it for our immediate need now, or are we also looking 20 years down the line, or 30 years? The National Western Center, we're looking at things at 100 years down the line. What are we going to have to revisit this intersection 15, 20, 30 years from now and say, hey, you know, we got to redo it anyway?
So, John, one of the things, we are looking at the big picture, and we're looking also at the desire for balancing our different modes, and I can let Eric talk to that more. But we are looking at the big picture, not just the immediate needs.
Well, it's my understanding. I've watched planners and I've seen them, but you know, you guys have the tools to deal with present problems and situations, but it's my understanding that your calling is to anticipate what future needs will be. And
that's correct. And also to plan to help support the vision that that we've heard from the community of what the community wants. So finding the—
I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. Then the next question is how much of the community and what part of the community are you listening to? But we can talk about this later.
Right.
Yeah,
we're here to listen to everyone and
okay.
all the voices.
Well, I'm just, you know, bringing that up because it was talked about before, and it's just like, you know, I never heard anything else about it, but we can talk about it later.
Sure. Some of the tenets of the Washington Street study that all the folks that worked on that discussed and agreed upon came up with some priorities and goals from, again, this is just speaking to the study, of minimizing impact to the surrounding community.
Yes, I agree with that. Yes, totally.
And so all of this, and we've talked about this before, is about balancing the need for improvements to Washington, improving accessibility, improving, and I think we just have a minute left, so we're probably going to get cut off, but improving access and connectivity, as well as balancing the impact on the community. So that's, those are some of the big picture things that we're looking at.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
I would add one more element to that. The improvements that are on here, especially for the intersection, they are consistent with the 20-year projections that came out of the NUCO traffic study.
Thank you, Eric. That's a great point. And John, I know we talked about this in the study that some of the operational improvements to Washington make significant changes to how traffic moves through the area that can really significantly benefit the existing from where you are currently.
Well, I'm just trying to visualize in a year 2028. when we have the biggest stock show ever. And the traffic is going to be lined up from National Western Drive all the way to Washington Street, waiting on the light to turn green so the traffic can move out.
We're looking at balancing that with, obviously, we do have train service to the to National Western Center as well. So
I'm talking about truck traffic,
I think one of the things,
as well as you know, car traffic.
I think we need to remember too that when we have major event traffic, that an officer can operate the signal to clear the traffic and not not rely on traffic signal timing plans, but operate it manually to clear the traffic out.
And
that's true. Yes, I agree with you there.
And we did, John.
Sorry to interrupt, but the session should be over by now.
You'll probably want to stop sharing your screen then.
Yeah.
And then go back to the main presentation.
Yeah. When we get back in there, I'll pull that up.
Multitasking this evening.
Yeah, I know, right? Let me get out of this one.
Real quick, are we going to get a link to have access to this recording?
Yes. If you just send Anthony a note, we're glad to, they're always available. Not everybody wants to have them because they're pretty long, but if you would like to have one, just send a note to Anthony, either through his email or in the chat, and we're glad to give you access to the recording.
Thanks.
And then other things we'll post.
We're ready to complete our meeting with our next discussion related.
Great.
Okay, great.
Are we all back?
Yes,
we are.
Looks like we're all back. So we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about sidewalks because we know this is a really important issue for you. And so Karen Good is going to lead us through that. And also, I know we're going to run a little bit late. So if you have to leave at before we finish the presentation and have comment session on the sidewalks, please just let us know in the chat and we're glad to give you a call. Karen will be available. Anthony, the Dottie team is ready to share any information that you might miss because we're running overtime and we apologize for running late, but we don't want to cut this short. We don't want to cut this out of our agenda because we know it's of great interest. So Karen, I'm going to let you take over on sidewalks.
Great. So I'm just gonna, Beth, if we can go to the next slide. This is, you've seen this before, big picture, what's happened with sidewalks, vote for bond approval. This is just in case anyone's jumping in. Fresh in 2018, planning and identification of projects, 2019, first projects were identified, 2020, designs for the first projects going forward. Next slide. So this is what I think is really exciting, and everyone's been asking, well, when are we going to actually see something in the ground? Just pull the truck up, let's get sidewalks in. We want the sidewalks that you've been talking about. So it's happening. We're in 2021, and now anytime you see blue, that is construction. So some folks that live on 48th between Brighton and Claude Court, which is basically Yorkish, they're going to be hearing from us in the next couple of weeks because we're going to be starting construction of sidewalks on 48th. Thompson Court will be a little later this year and potentially into 2022, as well as Josephine, 40th, and I can see everyone's faces, but I might not be able to see some of the chat. So
we'll keep you posted, Karen.
Perfect. Thank you. So we have a lot of projects, over half a dozen projects that are going to construction in 2021. Some of those will extend into 2022. Then we do have a number that are in design currently on 52nd. I know one that's been of particular interest to folks is 44th Ave, Broadway to Delaware. That's just off of the Globeville Main Street. So we're really excited. That's by an elementary school. That's pretty complex design. So that's taking a little bit longer in design, but we want to make sure that we're talking to you, that we're talking to the property owners. Some questions came up on the 51st breakout session about, you know, how does this design impact my access? That's something that we'll be talking through with folks with the sidewalk design to make sure that we're including them in the conversation and tweaking the design based on people's needs in different areas. I know some of you are on the phone and might not be able to see this. So 51st Ave is another that'll be in design in 21 and 22. Construction will be a little further out into 2023. Clarkson, Emerson Street, 52nd, those are, that is similar to 51st. Then we have Steele and Clayton that are in the planning stage in 21, later in 21 and 22, and they'll then roll into design and construction. We don't have the exact timeframes on those quite yet. And I want to stop here and see if anyone has any questions on what we've got in front of you.
Questions or comments? I mean, we know that this has been an important issue for the community. We wanted to get this information out to you to have a clear and transparent time schedule for your information. You can see that there's 6 streets already that are going, that are will begin their sidewalk construction in 2 weeks and into the latter part of Q1 of 22. Questions or comments from 5421? No? Okay. On the phone? Somebody on the phone? No?
That's John Zappian is on the phone.
John, did you want to raise any sidewalk questions?
No, not at this point. I'll save some comments for later on.
Okay, I won't forget you.
Thank you.
And then Beth, if you can go to the next slide, it's really just an illustrative of the map showing some of those sidewalks and our years of when we're looking at constructing those. So you'll see on the lower left, you've got sidewalks around the 41st and Fox Station, as I mentioned, and over by Garden Place Elementary as you cross over the 44th Bridge. That includes a pretty complex set of stairs from the bridge down to 44th and then connecting to the existing sidewalks along 44th and then adding new sidewalks along 44th. And those are in the 2022-2023 range for construction. If you go along Washington and look up to 51st, where we've been talking about, that's coming along in the, again, these are high level estimates, but looking at 2024 for installation for some of that and a bit earlier for some of the others. And I don't want to just bore you to tears with this, but want to give you a chance to ask any questions that you may have about these various sidewalk segments or anything that you'd like, you know, if you see something missing that's a real gap, we'd like to hear about that as well.
I think the Washington Street project, really this yellow line that hits right from north to south. Yeah, it really shows you why it takes so long to get those sidewalks, because they will be the last, sort of the last pieces in the major construction that happens along along Washington Street. And then also taking a look at 51st, which we also shared with you today. It gives you a sense of what needs to go into those roadways before the sidewalks go in. But are there other questions that you might have about the sidewalks and the timing or the locations? Your input is extremely valuable to the team, and we would really appreciate any comments or questions you might have.
And I would add, this isn't your only chance to provide input either. So this is something that we'll make sure to get out to folks so that if people have questions, they can reach out to us and we can answer one-on-one. We've done a lot of one-on-one answers for site-specific concerns, questions, and interests.
If you have questions
Seems like
about, go
it
ahead.
seems like some of the businesses on Sherman, along Sherman north of 51st there, it seems like there's not a lot of sidewalks along those areas, a lot of dirt paths and things. Yep, right in that area. Is there going to be anything done on that? Is there anything in the plan? I mean, nothing here I see, but was that given any kind of consideration?
We can look into that and see if that's something that we could add on to one of the existing projects, or if there's a reason that it wasn't added already. So that's something that we will look at. One of the things we consider is whether, and I'm trying to place it in my head, you know, if there's somebody that's in the midst of a development plan for a site that would include sidewalks that a developer is putting in, we wouldn't put sidewalks in if somebody already is. But I don't want to say that that's the case there. But we can look into that and get back to you.
Yeah, specifically, I think it was on the west side of Sherman, if I remember
West
right.
side of Sherman, between 51st and 52nd.
Right, in that area, yeah. And there's some other businesses along that area. I know there's some construction along Lincoln where they're putting in some condos or some townhomes in that area, and that, you know, I know there's a lot going on in there, but just walking around the neighborhood, just noticed some areas where there were some gaps in the sidewalks.
Sure.
So Mike, can we get back to you? We have your name, and we'd be more than glad to get back to you with the answer to that question.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a little bit of clarification around the colors. It looks like there's a path along the river. I was able to hang out actually that last Sunday there, and it seems like there was already a path. So I'm confused that there's a line there that says 2024. Is that something that they're going to make new, or that's completely different?
I think that was simply a call out line for the South Platte River Trail itself.
Yeah.
The existing trail. I believe the red is actually up on Clayton between 51st and 52nd. So that's, we will work on clarifying some of the colors in our map there.
Yeah, and I suspect, Karen, that is it'll be an improvement to the trail. Is that what you're seeing there as the levee gets built?
Gotcha. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I hope we haven't worn you out. It's a lot of information this evening. Remember that you can, if you have questions that are you think of tonight or tomorrow morning or whenever, just call Anthony, and there's also his mobile phones there, and also his email address. You can also go to our new website at bit.ly/Washington Project, and that we are so interested in keeping you engaged. So please let us know how we can help. We have lots of avenues. If it's not the website, it's not talking to Anthony, we have the CAG meetings, and as we mentioned before, we'll be continuing these meetings, probably the next one in July, where we can continue to update you. So we really want to be sure that you're getting all the information and that you need as improvements come to the Globeville area.
Hey, Catherine, I know John had a question or comment or two. I want to make sure we capture that. So John, go ahead.
Okay, one of the things I feel compelled to say. First of all, I want to thank you, everyone, and I feel very much in a lot of gratitude for what's being done by all the teams that are working. I have not been able to participate as much in recent months, and that brings up the question as to how many of my other neighbors have not been able to as well. Life via Zoom is not the best way. In our neighborhood, as I suspect in other areas, technology, everyone doesn't have it. So I look forward to the time when we can have a sit-down, face-to-face meeting, and I intend to call for one as soon as possible, whenever it's permissible. I want to make sure that the people least able to understand the effect that technology has in communications that passes some of us up and not left behind. And I know a lot of the older people in the neighborhood feel that way. But through no fault of their own, and certainly no fault of the people in this entire planning process, because you have a job to do, and after 50-some years, I'm totally grateful for everything that's happening. We have development on the east, we have development on the west. Massive development is going to take place. And Globeville is going to be in a squeeze. So what you're doing in our neighborhood is totally important. And I deeply appreciate it, because I've waited more than 50 years to see some of this take place. So I want to thank you and encourage you to continue your good work. We will do whatever we can to fill in the gaps of communication. We got several churches in the neighborhood that have access to communication with a lot of people around that are not even their parishioners. But I want to thank everybody, and I appreciate our gratitude that things finally are coming about. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments. I want to just reiterate, as soon as the city tells us we can begin hosting community meetings in the public, you'll be the first person I call, because this virtual, it's very challenging for all of us. And I know especially for residents in Globeville. So I make the commitment that as soon as we can begin meeting in person, I will call you and let you know when that date is, and we will schedule a meeting with the community.
Yeah, and John, Anthony and I were saying the same thing in a little sidebar of we want to make sure that we can get out in front of people. So it was like you were reading our minds.
Thank you very much.
John has been, John and I go back many years, John, and
don't let all the secrets out of the bag.
I know. And you have been just an incredible advocate for the community and for the city and county of Denver. So thank you for participating with us tonight, and to participating with really meaningful questions and bringing attention to things that we could be doing better.
No. Thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you all for one more thing. I'm going to ask you to do is if you could click on the surveymonkey.com. You can see it either in the QR code. You can also just do it with your phone or click onto this website. It really helps us make our meetings better. And we've received just invaluable feedback from people who actually participate in our Survey Monkey. It helps us be better at what we do. So if you would take a moment before you sign off tonight to either log into the website or use the QR code and give us some feedback. You don't have to be gentle. If there are things that we can be doing better, please let us know.
And Catherine, I just did both. I clicked on the link in the chat and that worked. And then I'm technologically challenged, but I put my phone up to the QR code and it gave me the link to do the survey on my phone. So, and if you're on the phone and you can't do either, my phone number is 720-252-0274. Feel free to text me or give me a call and I will figure out a way. I can figure out how to make sure that we capture your information if one of these avenues doesn't necessarily work.
I know we've kept you longer than we said we would, but we're so grateful for you spending the evening with us tonight. all of us from Dottie and the City and County of Denver Parks and Rec, and all of our departments and agencies, as well as the consultants who work on these projects on behalf of the cities. On behalf of the city, we want to thank you for participating tonight in our open house. We will be letting you know when our next open house is, and hopefully in July, to update you and to bring new projects and information to you so that you can see what's happening. Even though you're on the ground and seeing the construction crews and trucks out there, you're probably wondering what's going on. We'll be glad to give you that information. Meantime, if we don't see you before then, just please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you spending the evening with us.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Beth.
Good night.
Good night, Francisco. Good night, Dwayne.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Good night, Michelle. Great job.